Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of Beyond Your Circumstance. This is episode number 3 of our newly launched podcast. So excited. And I have my second guest on. I'm going to give you a quick little rundown about her. Her name is Jenny C. Cohen. And she believes in a world where everyone can dance to heal and feel safe in their bodies, knowing that they are created in beauty and perfection in spite of life's happenings, which we're talking about circumstances, so that's perfect. And also, she's going to share a little bit of her story. So she is a breast cancer survivor, complex PTSD survivor. And she created the Dance to Heal program and podcast, which I got the privilege to be on her podcast. So be sure to go over to her podcast, listen to that one, subscribe to it. But she shares her love of outside in mastery for emotional fitness and to end eternal over-busyness. She loves to show how to reconnect your mind and body in new ways. So one of the topics that I asked her about, like what would you love to talk to our audience about today, was self-care and how it's not exactly the same as having it all, but we can. So I'm going to let her expound a little more about that. But I'm really excited to have this conversation. So welcome, Jenny. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm so honored to be here at your podcast. Audience member, Stephanie is someone so special, and I'm so glad you found her. Okay, so regarding self care, oftentimes it is portrayed as a very selfish thing to do. And
Yes.
I want to just acknowledge that first. All right. When we're talking about self care, I believe we're talking about deep, deep respect and acknowledgement of how valuable this vessel, this body that was gifted to us, how we need to invest in its longevity, because how then are we able to do our life's work, our sole purpose? This body we're gifted is a key instrument for us figuring out why we were sent here, what life passions did we elect before we were born. That's a lesson I wish I had learned way before. When I immigrated to the States at 6 years old, I learned very quickly that being an outsider does not work for safety feelings. So I learned very early on to always be of service. That way my hope in that tiny child brain was, oh, you'll find value in me serving and you won't bully me, or I will feel more safe because you see a value in my service, right? That thoughts tend to start to, it will tend to start to backfire on us as we get older, because then we stop being able to sit in our self-worth without doing anything. I think that's really important to acknowledge. All my life, up until I got breast cancer in my 40s, I served. I was serving everyone but myself. And when I talk about self-care, I really would love the audience, you audience, Stephanie already knows this because we spoke about it on my podcast. I'm talking about self-care beyond the bubble bath, beyond the manicure, the massages, which are band-aid approaches, right?
Right.
I got breast cancer, I firmly believe, because I literally emptied my well of energy. I was taking care of everybody and not myself. I would love for you, audience, and I'm doing it, I know Stephanie does it, to take inventory of things like, how many hours of sleep do I get? Like good sleep.
Right.
Yeah, like good sleep. How much do you actually really hydrate? When you're thirsty, it's already too late. Your body's screaming. Like it doesn't even, you're just playing catch up with drinking at that point. Okay, hydration, even self-care in terms of what food do you feed your body, because that is nourishment for you to be able to accomplish your sole purpose while you're here in this lifetime, right? So that's the self-care I'm referring to. And it took me until after I got breast cancer to realize how important that was. In my 40s, it was never role modeled to me by my mother. You know, my parents come from farmers in Taiwan. a long lineage of poverty is what I inherited. So it was always, oh, well, you can't make money because, that's being selfish and you got to work hard all the time. No rest for us because we don't deserve it. That's been really important to throw off. Really important. I really want your audience to hear that. Self-care of that deepest level is really important. Did I answer the question? I felt like I
Yeah.
went off on a tangent.
No, that's great. That's awesome. And I often talk about self-care too with my clients, just on like social media, just talking to people in general. And I think there are a lot of things that are limiting us when we think about care. Because same thing, I grew up in a Puerto Rican home. And for us, and saw it modeled through my own mother, is
Mhm.
that she took care of the house, she took care of the kids, she took care of her husband, she had food on the table for him. Like that was your responsibility. Never did I ever see her say, I'm going to make myself a priority. I'm going to take a day off, or I'm not going to do this for you guys today. I never saw that. So culturally, that's a huge thing, even societal too. So yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely.
Right? Rest is resistance.
Mm,
Rest is resistance. It
right,
not doing anything and sitting in who and what you need is important to do. Those of us with children, we have to role model that for our kids
yeah.
because they're internalizing everything they see from us, even if they're in school. My kids were homeschooled, so were with me all the time, and so that there's a running joke like anything that comes up with their therapist, they only have one cause, me and their dad, because they didn't go to school. That's not true. They did elite sports. They went to junior Olympics and did all these fun things that most kids don't necessarily have the option of,
Mhm.
because we scheduled their homeschooling around their rhythmic gymnastics training, so and and they gave it up after they earned their gold and silver medals. They were done with that. It was just one of those times. It took me a long time to learn it. So during their elite athlete days, that was before I got cancer, you know. And during that time, my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And this is a really interesting story, I think is very relevant to your audience, Stephanie, because you're faith based. So, when my son was first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he almost died. I was racked with guilt. And on top of that, I was really angry at God. Why is my son saddled with this disease? He can never be free of it. He always has to be on top of himself, right? I didn't understand. I stopped praying. I stopped going to services. I'm a Jew by choice, a proud Jew by choice. I love being able to observe God in that way. I was disillusioned from my church when I was younger. And I just stopped praying. I was so angry
Yeah.
because it's a tough life for a child to be saddled with type 1 diabetes. It's really hard.
Right.
Fast forward a number of years later, and I got breast cancer. That was when I got a download. You ready for this? And it was very crystal clear. It's as if, whatever your definition of God is, I just heard a voice saying to me, do you understand why Daniel has type 1? And I went, uh-huh, I understand. My son is a risk taker. He looks for the dopamine hit of dangerous things. He was the kid that when I put up childproof childproof gates around the house, he was the one we caught on top of the childproof gate, rocking side to side because he figured a way to put the costuming trunk underneath it and climbed up on top of it. He was trying to scale that gate.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah, we had these giant length lengthwide, really tall, narrow, we thought they were childproof windows. He was the one who figured out how to push the little latches in and swung hanging on the window pane inward on this window. Like he figured it out. As an adult, it was hard for me. Somehow he figured out a way to do that. And
Wow.
yeah, and the message right then was you don't need to understand or even accept it.
Mm,
Daniel has type 1 to slow him down.
wow.
I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So that was pretty intense when I got that download. And then I was very grateful, and I was like, thank you, God, for letting me be the one to have cancer and no
Mhm.
one else get hit, because my husband had cancer when we were first married. And then Daniel got the type 1. And then my husband had emergency bowel obstruction surgery a month before I found the lump. So I was kind of done with family members having things, you know. No one can go pain free in this life. And I was just glad I took one for the team getting breast cancer, having no clue how hard it was really going to be.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's really heavy because as you're going through it, and I'm sure as you expressed, you were angry, you were upset with God. Why is this happening? And to like bear on this extra load, one after another, it's like, when am I going to get a break? When is things going to make sense? You know, but you took on as much as that is and overcame it. You're a survivor,
Yeah.
and survivor doesn't mean that you didn't have the repercussions of it. Like, there are things that people who are cancer survivors, my husband's a cancer survivor, that they're dealing with even after it's gone,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is more challenges. Um, so tell me a little bit more about after the cancer and your journey there, and how you've been able to even like have a smile on your face today. Like, you have such an amazing smile. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see her smile, but if you're listening, you can't see her smile. She has an amazing smile, and she's radiating joy. And I know that you radiate joy with the people that you talk to, maybe clients that you work with. Um, how do you keep having that joy?
Oh, okay. So I hope you can hear my smile in my voice, audience, that's on the audio recording. Okay. I find joy because I'm so relieved to know that it's not about me.
Mm,
It's not about me. I mean, I get to enjoy the side effects of having a life with a loving husband and 2 children who are still alive in their 20s after this post-pandemic times. It is pretty mind-blowing that I got COVID once last August. That's it. We've been really careful and very privileged in our ability to avoid getting sick, even from just common flu and colds. We've been really stringent. I think also some of it is because I've been protected. I have had a realization that beyond being a good wife and mothering my children, my sole purpose is to help people heal.
yeah.
And I have the book on YouTube. You guys can see a little book cover, and I'm pointing at this little plaque that my publisher sent me of my book called Outside in Recovery: Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I think my purpose in this life is to remind people to celebrate and dance.
Mm,
Why? There are Bible verses that talk about how biblical figures have danced in appreciation in front of God,
right.
right? Dancing is one of the few modalities that lights up every part of our brains,
Mhm.
every part. And oftentimes, I actually get downloads when I'm fully present.
Mm,
Intuition, I think, is the subconscious, and people going a little woo woo, the subconscious, everyone is connected at some level.
mm,
We're all connected in the subconscious. So when we say subconscious, it's like, it isn't like, it is absolutely a level of awareness that's above our 10% consciousness here, if you're listening to this episode. And there are even people, practitioners, who say that's literally our direct line to higher powers like God, the universe, source, right? So, how do we stay connected to that to know what our life's purpose is?
right.
dance is one of the few things that I know have worked for me. I used to equate dancing with prayer, even though I wasn't regularly going to services and I was still angry at God. I was still dancing and having a different kind of communication,
Mhm.
and if you're in a safe setting of other people who are rooted in community without, different agendas playing, we're human, we're subject to some of those. If you can find a community to move in, it just puts you more in touch with that part of you that helps you stay present instead of being afraid of the past or trying to plan for the future, because neither one of those are within anything to do with our control. It's just the here and now. So that's where I've been able to find more joy. Before I started to recover, Stephanie, I literally was either lost in the past, holding grudges with people that I thought they hurt me or they put me in a bad position, or so afraid of what was going to happen, I couldn't find joy. There was no happiness for me.
Yeah. Question that came to my mind, and maybe you can shed some light. My husband, who went through tongue cancer,
Mm.
he went through vigorous treatments for 2 months straight with chemo and radiation. And one thing that he told me about his experience is that after going through that, he feels like he's not the same person as he was before the cancer. You
Oh,
feel that same way?
yeah, I am not. I am not. And the caveat, because I don't know like how they found it for your husband, Stephanie. For me, when I found the lump in June, I had started in January of that year going fully vegan, working out every morning at 5. I was super strong and almost in a body that was stronger than before I had my babies, like that. It felt that way. And then I found the lump and I thought, wow, what does that mean? I couldn't find reason because there was no genetic tie in to why I got cancer.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then fast forward a year and a half later, after 16 cycles of chemo, like a lymph node resection, I got to keep my breasts,
Mm,
but that didn't mean anything in the long run. Then I had 35 radiation treatments and then another year of infusions
mm,
because of the marker for my type of cancer. And it definitely shifts you in a different direction of awareness
right.
because there's the trauma portion of it because you have to sit still for people to do things to you. And that's a trauma response.
Wow.
And trauma changes your brains, guys, no matter when it hits you, from childhood, middle life, or even in life. Trauma and that lack of power feeling
Yeah.
changes the chemistry in your brain. That's one. And at the same time, once I was released, I was actively searching for ways to alleviate my survivor guilt.
Mm.
The fact that I didn't feel connected in dance. So I was chasing the dance still for the same highs I was getting. I lost that connection during it because I had to be out of my body for a year and a half while they were saving me.
Uh-oh.
Right? So there's that type of thing. And I'll be really honest, and this is a transparency story. I have permission from my daughter to speak on this because those of us who serve all the time, right? We're never worthy enough to actually shift until someone in our family is in danger. And all of a sudden, it's like immediately I can shift. When I was about 3 years released from medical care and still running away with my dance events,
Mhm.
we went back to Boston for one of my children to say goodbye to their homeschooling friends. We were living on the East Coast, and now we live in Utah. And it was Mother's Day weekend. We were at a hotel room. My child says to me, "Mommy, I want to talk to you." And I'm like, "All right, great." I'm thinking they're going to thank me for this wonderful trip to Boston.
Mm.
Yeah. And then instead, this precious child of mine pulls up because they were wearing long sleeve t shirts and long sleeve shorts. And that was always their regular uniform. I never realized they were hiding deeply grooved cuts. So this is a trigger warning for some of your clients, right? In your audience, this is a trigger warning. So it turned out that my child had found blades and was cutting at themselves. not multiple cuts, just the same cut over and over, trying to get deeper and deeper. And then told me that they didn't want to be around in this life anymore. They were making plans to leave this plane of existence.
Wow.
I was an occupational therapist. I had done rotations in child pediatric populations. So I went into clinical mode, got home, locked up all the knives, set up therapy, and I was like, we're good. 2 weeks later, this precious, precocious child had found brand new fish fillet knives that I missed because I wasn't present, and it
Mm.
had a relapse while I was out at a local dance event here in Salt Lake. And what stopped me cold, it was as if like God, the universe was screaming in my ear, you're gonna lose her. You better pay attention right now. Because I was putting butterfly, the things, the butterfly bandages that pull the edges together, all up and down the forearm. And I'm bawling, and this precious soul that was put in my care, right? Looking at me with the eyes of a stranger,
Wow.
not even there in their bodies. And I was just like, something squeezed my heart. And it's like, you're going to lose this baby. What the fuck are you doing? And that was the beginning of the journey of me going, I have to be present immediately, or I will not be able to do what this child needs.
Mm.
And it was touch and go, you guys, for the first 2 years. And that was this process of being tuned into the five senses all the time, remembering to breathe, that kind of stuff. And so, like, even now, because I've been working on this actively for the last 3, 4 years, I could sit here having a conversation with you and know if my child's in danger or not, or they're just having a hard day because they're in university. We
Right.
know already. I'm so present. And it's not this, some people like to say, oh, you're just codependent. My child's completely independent. I just have an awareness when something's off, and we
Mhm.
check in. And sometimes it's nothing, and sometimes it's something they need to talk to me about.
Yeah.
'Cause our kids are never ever full grown, y'all. You never release them to the wild. That's why they elected us as their parents. That's the way it should be. I could talk forever about that one.
Yeah. I kind of want you to expound a little bit more on being present because I feel like as moms, as like we want to be everything, do everything for our kids, but we get distracted. I know for me, I'm going to talk from my own experience real quickly. I get distracted often. And maybe I'm writing up something on my laptop, like just a little while, I was writing some ads copy and I'm just, trucking away, trying to get all the things on my to-do list done. And yeah, my kids are home and I'm present in a sense that my body is in the same home as them, but
Mhm.
my mind is not paying attention to every little detail that they're doing. So just kind of expound on that a little bit, maybe some tips or how to be a little more present and not let all those distractions take it away?
Thank you for that question. Because everyone's so unique in their everyday lives and responsibilities, right? Because some of your audience members will have very young children, and some will have a little bit older, but they have a lot of extracurricular things, and we're running all over the place because it depends, right? The most important thing, besides gratitude, which is super important, um, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today about how giving gratitude through the day actually continues to replenish you so you
Mhm.
do have enough energy throughout the day. That's really important. I was like, you're right. Because normally I do gratitude at the end of the day when I'm journaling.
Mm.
But now I'm half asleep trying to finish this journaling activity instead of, really truly feeling gratitude at the moment. So I would really like to ask everyone to consider, we all have a phone. In
Mhm.
your phone, set gratitude reminders.
Yeah.
Now, for moms who are busy kind of moving our kids back and forth, right? Taking them to this, taking them to that. Well, when you drop off your kid, let that moment be your gratitude while they're at the activity and you're waiting for them, right? If your kids are homeschooled, build it into the schooling schedule. So they're incorporating what you're trying to fix into your schedule. Most of us moms, we're very child motivated. To do it just for us, we're not going to do it. I'm sorry. That's just it. This
Yeah.
is why I started off with that, because where I'm just planting a seed for you, the audience, to consider,
Oh,
right? In my NLP work that I've been really trying to get people to understand is the 10% conscious parts of us here, you and I, Stephanie, the audience listening to this.
mm,
There's another 90% behind us who have already made a judgment whether or not what they're hearing is a value, if we're going to even pay attention to it or not. Does it serve at all before our conscious self even realizes what we have been thinking? This
mm.
90% of us kept us safe until now. So darned if they're going to let some weird woman named Jenny telling them they got to give gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Why? That's something new. How do I deal with that? Your subconscious will shut that down immediately if they don't see that it serves a purpose to keeping you safe.
Mm,
And that's something you just want to be aware of. Even, oh, I'm going to eat well. I'm going to eat well from now on. And your subconscious going, why? Why would you eat well? How do I keep you safe for eating well? What does that mean? You always have your chips at 10 o'clock at night.
mm.
That's your safety.
Right.
I know how to handle that. What do you mean you're gonna have fruit? No, we're not happy about this. We're gonna make your craving for the chips 3 times stronger.
Mm. That's so true. So, so true. Man, that's awesome.
Start with gratitude, and then the second part of it is we forget that we're not taking full breaths.
Mm. Breath, yeah.
Yeah. And even the breath work itself, just be aware. Inhalation is not as important as exhalation. Okay. Oftentimes, some of us, I include myself, have underlying anxieties. They're not a pathological anxiety. It's just like a slight nervousness about what could happen, what could not happen if we're not present. And if we expand our lungs and keep taking breath in without expelling it all out, it can cause trigger responses in our bodies.
Mm.
Okay. So when we're actively running back and forth, it can cause our bodies and our brains to think we're in distress. And if you incorporate breath work, it turns off that system and turns on your parasympathetic nervous system to be calmer
Yeah.
so you can think clearer and listen to your intuition as it serves you. One of the ways to do that is when you're breathing in the nose and out the mouth. I would recommend breathing in for 4 counts and then breathing out for 5 counts.
Mm.
Okay. How you're doing that, you just tune into your sense of smell. Your video audience sees that I keep taking sips of a tea. I do Earl Grey tea because the bergamot oil is a natural antidepressant. I'm not on any medications now. I
Mm.
kind of self do it with the bergamot oil. Okay.
Um,
You smell, you taste, you listen to your outside noises, you feel your butt in the seat. You let your clothing feel you. That's weird. Just trust me on this one. Let your clothing feel you. And then you soften your visual gaze. You could do that 3 times a day, 30 seconds,
yeah.
and you feel a shift. I promise you on that one.
Yeah. That's really good. Really good. I want to talk just a little bit more about dance aspect because I
Mhm.
know it's all your thing. You're healing through dance, and you were talking about how dance is connected like with the brain and your mood. So give us a little bit more about like how you incorporate that with healing.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you look in different cultures, many different cultures use dance as a form of expression of just dealing with the trauma of everyday life. Some of those cultures, they're war-torn countries. They've never really known peace. Yet the world structures our dances around them. For example, I do belly dancing. There's a lot of pelvic work. If you study the cultures and the history where they come from, there's a lot of there's very little peace, let's just say. Yet they dance and they have so much joy of life.
Mm.
The scientists are now finding a lot of research that because it lights up all parts of your brain, they've noticed it decreases the onset of dementia in people as they get older. Dancing actually keeps you young
Mm.
because you're actively activating every part of your brain when you do it. I do have clients, and I've even had audience members at talks I've given. I don't like dancing to music. I ask them, do you like the sound of waves, bird song? And there have been people who tell me, oh, I don't dance to this silly pop music. I'll
Mhm.
sway to the sound of the waves. Whatever you recognize as music is what you need to put into your movement every day.
Mm.
Life needs movement. Our cells vibrate, our atoms vibrate. Yeah. We're mostly we're mostly the element of water. Water vibrates to sound frequencies.
Mhm.
So when we want to do dance to heal, there's another layer. I'm going to tell you guys. I have not told anybody else about this. I just tied it in with my clients, usually in privates. Carl Sagan, the very reputable scientist, was able to document frequencies and sound that are married with feelings like love, shame, guilt. There are different frequencies that's associated with it. When you find a certain amount of music or something, it will register at a frequency for you. Yeah. And you're moving to it. You're literally programming every part of you to that frequency. So, guilt and shame, I think there's certain frequencies at like 150. And then love, I think, is like 350, 500. You want to find songs and music that you feel love in and you dance to that. Because, if you're listening to really sad, horrible, like for me, it's guitar riffs. That
Mm.
makes me want to bang my head into the wall. That frequency does not work for me, y'all. Yet some people love it, right?
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
want to find what connects for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And music in itself, like, that's just so powerful, so powerful.
Yeah.
Ugh. So kind of want to just tie everything in together. And usually, when on these podcast episodes, I like to share a scripture verse or something applicable from the Bible. And so today I'm going to be sharing James 1, 2 through 3. And it says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, that whenever you face trials of any kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And I love this verse because we were just talking about number one, trials. Trials is just the things that you go through, the challenges you go through, the circumstances that you're facing. They come and go like one after another. We don't know when they happen or when it's going to happen or anything like that. But what it said at the end is that this is helping us through our faith produce that perseverance that we learn through these challenges. We rise above these challenges and we grow in our faith. And like I mentioned before, how Jenny just radiating joy, it's like, consider it joy because through this, that's when we start that refining process. Like when a diamond is being refined over and over again, it has to be heated up so much to finally become that beautiful diamond. And that's what we are. We're becoming these beautiful diamonds, being able to have a testimony, being able to share our stories with other people to help them on their journey, which is, you know, biggest thing for me. I just want to share so that people know they're not alone. They're not alone, whatever they're facing. Maybe somebody's listening today and they're going through their own cancer story or they're going through their own story with their children, something that their children are dealing with. And they're like, I don't know what else to do. I'm scared. I'm confused. I'm upset. I feel lost. Like so many emotions can appear, that anxiety, that depression. And first and foremost is you're not alone. You're not alone at all. There's so many of us that have gone through these things and we probably felt the same things that you are feeling or are feeling right now. We probably felt it too. We're not like perfect just because we're out of it now, but know that you are capable of being able to go through it, be refined, be able to grow through the challenges. And that self care, man, we need to put it in the forefront of our path because a lot of times it's like it's being pushed away, pushed aside, and a lot of it's internalized, like, "I'm not worthy of that." Like,
Oh, that's a big one.
you know?
And you know what? I'm sorry to cut you off, Stephanie. I just think audience members put aside the worthiness and just be like, I just need to replenish so I can do more. And you
Mm,
cannot do it from an empty well. You
mm,
know, I would just invite you go to danceandheal.com and get access to 30 minutes of cardio somatic dance and stretching with me and see if that doesn't help fill your will, right?
yes.
And then, you know, look up Stephanie. She does amazing coaching. We're here for you. You don't need to do it alone. We
Right.
just want you to find people that know how to help you process. That's the most important thing. You
Absolutely.
know, like I watch a lot of K and C dramas. I love this theme that happens in a lot of the more theatrical shows. There's a running theme in Asian mythology, right? That celestial beings will come down into the mortal world to have our life human experiences because it cultivates them for them to elevate into a higher level of being. They have to suffer like humans because they don't know what that means. And for me, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we're all celestial beings.
Mm,
We're all souls that elected to have trials down here so that we could elevate up there.
yeah.
I love that. It ties in so much with your scripture that you read today.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. So I love today's conversation. It was fire, so much good things. Even I got some light bulb moments from our discussion today. So thank you so much for being here. I just want to leave the floor open if there's anything else. I know you mentioned Dance and Heal to get that freebie, but if anybody wants to follow you, how else? What's the perfect way for them to get in touch with you or follow you?
I recently discovered there are a lot of Jenny Cohens. So you can find me as Jenny C. Cohen under all of social medias. Feel free. I give you permission to direct message me. Just tell me that you want Stephanie's show. So I will respond. I get a lot of, we get random people we don't know. And I don't necessarily answer those messages. But you, audience, Stephanie's amazing audience, you have full permission to contact me there. Get that course at danceandheal.com. You can even email me at jennyccohen.com.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in to another podcast episode. We're here every single week on Wednesdays at 7 a.m. And I can't wait for our next conversation. Thanks again, Jenny, for being here.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.